Renault's Kangoo van has evolved, but not beyond recognition. This Phase 2 version is smarter, cleverer and better built. Its Energy DCI diesel engines are also impressively economical, plus there's zero emissions all-electric technology should you want it. In short, if you're in the market for a compact yet spacious van, it's still a strong contender.
We've been talking for years about vans, particularly small ones, becoming more car-like, but this one really is. Your initial impressions in this combustion model are likely to be dominated by three most un-van-like things: exemplary refinement, a low car-like driving position, and a particularly smooth shifting 6-speed manual gearbox that might convince even urban folk tempted by the alternative 7-speed EDC automatic. The high-set gear lever falls easily to hand and is complemented by light but accurate steering. If you're after a combustion Kangoo, you don't have to have this DCI 95 model, but it's almost certain that you will. The only alternatives, after all, are either the same engine in pricier 115 horsepower form with a mandatory auto gearbox, or the token petrol option that most rivals don't bother to offer because hardly anyone wants it. In this case, 1 litre, 3-cylinder, 100 horsepower TCE turbo unit from the Clio. Or you can take the plunge into the EV era with the much pricier E-Tech full battery version, which in this third generation Kangoo offers technology that's a huge step forward from the previous generation ZE model. That old LCV's 44 kilowatt motor's been replaced by a 90 kilowatt unit powered by a considerably larger battery, increased in size from 33 to 45 kilowatt hours. As a result, range is up to 186 miles from 143 before, and power output has now almost doubled to a class creditable 120 horsepower with 245 newton meters of immediately available torque. The E-Tech version has the same 1.5-ton brake towing capacity as the diesel variant as well, and 3 provided levels of selectable regenerative braking. As with the diesel, there's also an eco mode to stifle the throttle and maximise the range, but in the E-Tech version it muffles power output more considerably, reducing it by half to just 60 horsepower, so you won't really want to engage it outside the city limits unless you are really running low on charge. Battery replenishment from 20 to 80% takes 40 minutes at a public 80 kilowatt fast charging point, or 1 hour 21 minutes at a 22 kilowatt public charging point using the provided Mode 3 cable. A 7.4 kilowatt domestic charging point wall box requires just over 4 hours, while you'll need over 13 from a standard 2.3 kilowatt domestic socket. The Kangoo model line urgently needed a thorough visual redesign, which is what's been delivered here. In third generation form, it certainly looks a lot more modern, with a shorter bonnet and squarer lines. Renault promises an even bigger step forward inside, where just about everything that matters has been carried over from the current Clio Super Mini. So, is that what's delivered here? Well, the answer is that this is by quite a distance the smartest Renault van cabin you'll ever have sat in. And if you get a version with this 8-inch Easy Link centre screen, it'll feel pretty car-like too. The instrument binnacle in this combustion model offers conventional dials split by a 3.5-inch display, all of which you view through a confident-looking 3-spoke wheel lifted from the Clio Super Mini with identical multifunction controls, including a useful extra stalk for the audio system. A key change this time round is that you can have a 2-person passenger seat, though only as standard with plusher trim, which is why we haven't got it here. But the main thing you'll take away here is the feel of an interior that's far less utilitarian than before. And though it's disappointing that there's no provision for a fold-down passenger seat or a flap into the cargo area, you'll be impressed by the multitude of cab stowage areas, which include an upper shelf, big door bins and a useful lidded cubby built into the instrument binnacle top. So, which Kangoo is going to suit your business? Well, first you're going to need to select your favoured size. Either this standard ML19 body shape with 3.3 cubic metres of space, up from 3 cubic metres with the previous generation model, which is class competitive, or the alternative LL21 long wheelbase version, which has 4.2 cubic metres, up from 4 cubic metres in the previous Maxi variant. As for the payload, well, if that's important to you, then you might want to think twice about the E-Tech electric version, because it's slightly restricted there with this ML standard body shape to 608 kilograms compared to 850 kilograms in the combustion versions. An LL long wheelbase Kangoo E-Tech could carry up to 764 kilos compared to up to 987 in the combustion versions. Those restrictions are due to the extra 200 kilos the E-Tech model carries about, courtesy of its drive battery. OK, let's take a closer look at practicality. Both body shapes can squeeze in a standard Euro pallet thanks to the generous 1,248mm width between the wheel arches that all Kangoos share. It's 1,570mm from wall to wall. This rear entrance aperture is 1,117mm tall by 1,256 wide, narrowing to 1,196mm just above the tail lights. The loading length is 1,806mm in this ML version, or 2,230 with the LL body shape, which has a slightly lower loading sill height of 613mm. Enough on the stats, let's mention a feature we really like on this third generation Kangoo, this optional easy inside rack, a load area ladder rack mounted beneath the roof. Use this yellow toggle to get it to retract, and then ladders and pipes can be kept securely inside the load area rather than on top of the van, where they could be stolen and will certainly affect aerodynamics and therefore running costs. Right, let's take a look at side loading practicality. A sliding door on each side, even in this ML standard length model. With most rivals, you have to stretch to the long wheelbase body shape to get a sliding door on each side. It's a strong selling point. The side door aperture is 736mm by 1054. There's the usual full height bulkhead, though this one can't be had with a useful load flap through to the cab, the sort of thing you'll find in most segment rivals. Renault has, though, provided the facility for this right-hand side overhead compartment through above the driver's side of the cab, which might be just enough to get something really long to fit back here. As for running costs, well, Renault says it's worked hard in this area. From this DCI 95 diesel model, expect 53.3 mpg on the combined cycle, which we've been getting pretty close to on this test, and 139 grams per kilometre of CO2. If you're interested in the EV model, you'll want to know about charging. Well, battery replenishment from 20 to 80% for the all-electric E-Tech version takes 40 minutes at a public 80 kilowatt fast charging point, or 1 hour 21 minutes at a 22 kilowatt public charging point using the provided Mode 3 cable. A 7.4 kilowatt domestic charging point wall box requires just over 4 hours, while you'll need over 13 from a standard 2.3 kilowatt domestic socket. And in summary, well, if you're shopping in this class, make no mistake, this Kangoo has to be high on your list of contenders to try if you're to make the right buying or leasing decision. It turns out that renovation really does mean something after all.